Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. On this podcast, we like to discuss topics around creating and capturing demand in higher education. Before we jump in to the podcast, I'd love to talk a little bit about the sponsor, Concept 3D. Concept 3D helps bring your campus to life virtually. We have served over 600 happy customers in higher education with our best-in-class interactive maps, virtual tours, and event calendars. Improve your campus communications, student engagement, and recruitment with our powerful solutions. So my name is Shiro, and I'm going to be your host today, and I'm speaking from my home in Silverthorne, Colorado. And I'm really excited about the topic today because we get to talk about both creating demand and capturing demand as it pertains to perception as well as website. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Melissa Bradshaw. Melissa is a marketing leader in higher education. She is the VP of Digital at SimpsonScarborough, and she's also served at Ohio State University as the AVP of Marketing and Chief Marketing Enablement Officer. Melissa, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Shira. Happy to be here.
Great. And before we open up and dive into the topics we have, I'd love to ask an open-ended question around what do you love about higher ed?
Yes, what do I love about higher ed? So I've worked in both public and private higher ed. What I love the most about it is the stage at which it impacts a student's life. So when I went to college, it was one of the most transformative times in my life where I got that first taste of independence. I moved to a brand new city on my own, and I had to launch, and the support system around me, the things that I was learning both personally and academically really just transformed me into who I am. So I recognize how important that journey is for students and love to continue influencing that in my career.
Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And, speaking of the topics today around creating demand, I know in a previous call, we talked about the importance of driving and delivering good experiences in higher education, and also increasing the perception of universities. So, you make students want to go and attend a different universities. Can you tell us a little bit more about this topic?
Sure. I mean, I think that higher ed's really unique in that because it does create this experience, right? You're invested when you're there. You're there for multiple years. Like I said, it's a transformative time in life, and it really is the ultimate experience brand if you really think about it, right? You're not engaging in higher ed for a week and going back home. This is really a place that you're going to commit to. And so being an experience brand, it's really important for higher ed to convey that message when they're marketing to students, prospective students, parents, even all of the key decision makers that are deciding to engage with that brand. So I really do think that how does higher ed think about building affinity is really in demonstrating that experience in a really unique way. If you think about the market, day in and day out, I'm a Starbucks advocate, but also Disney World or Amazon or Netflix, all of these big brands that have been tried and true successful in terms of creating experiences for their audiences. Higher ed has really ripe opportunity to continue to do that as well. And the traditional space that they've been able to do that is through that brick and mortar campus. But as we know, our audiences are changing and the world is becoming much more digitally savvy. And so I think that, and this is where I work, right? But that's my point of passion is how do you convey those experiences in a digital format to the student all the way across the United States that maybe, is trying to make that decision as to whether they'll travel to that campus or not. I just think there's a really unique opportunity there for higher ed.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really impactful. So learning from some of our neighbors in different industries, there's a lot we can do there, is what you're saying, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And these, if you really think about students, and this is a big decision in their lives. They've spent their lives really growing up around friends and, engaging in activities and clubs and really identifying who they are. And they're going to take that big leap. They want to go somewhere that understands them, that gets them, that is a place that they feel like they'll fit in. Educational institutions offer so much variety and diversity in those spaces, but it's really hard to convey that on flat web pages or even in just a couple days of a campus visit or experience. So how do you kind of bring that to light for someone who's really trying to find their tribe, if you will?
Yeah, and speaking of finding your tribe, do you have some examples that you've seen, whether it's digital or non-digital, like good examples you've seen schools do in trying to convey that message and that environment that they truly have on campus?
Sure. I mean, I've seen places that certainly have a lot of clubs and activities and really focus on promoting that, not only for their current students, but also being intentional about that for their prospective students, student life opportunities and events, and making sure that is front and center for prospective students so that there's a taste of the life on campus. But, those are the types of things I've seen in different areas where and I might need to pause here. No problem. 'Cause I'm thinking a little bit, but those are the types of things I've seen is where you bring the student life experience to the fore, and really start to demonstrate to students that, hey, we get you, we see you, and we have something for you. Some of that requires knowing the student as well. And not all students are the same. They're not a monolith. And so how do you understand them? How do you start to learn more about them so that you can give them the right information and demonstrate that your university speaks to them?
And I think one thing I'm starting to remember from our previous conversation is you mentioned peer experience sharing. Like what a better way than to, learn from other peers maybe already at the institution on like the experience they're having that shared, right?
Yeah, one of the things that we know about this generation too is that they really are focused on authentic experiences, right? They're not thinking about like, I don't want to see all the marketing speak. I don't want to see the fluff that was overproduced. I want to see what a real experience is like. Social media is in their lives every day, and whether you have current students that are posting on social media or you're really thinking about how they can engage with that population when they are there on campus, that's the most important aspect of converting, if you will, the students and having them think about, is there someone that I can meet or hear from that is experiencing this brand, experiencing this university? And what can I glean from them? How is their experience every day, right? So, there's something to the opportunity to do that from afar as well. Because again, not every student's going to get the opportunity to come to that campus.
Love to hear it. I actually spoke with a social media manager from Mississippi State University, and she was sharing some analytics around like the social media content that performed the best. And like you said, it was the real authentic content. Like she just filmed the video of what it looks like to graduate from, with a doctorate, what that graduation day looks like. And she's just filmed it from her phone, and she shared the experiences of the students graduating, and that performed so well because it created that authentic content, authentic experience that I think you've been talking about.
Yeah, I've got
So,
I've got a high schooler, and it's really interesting how much produced television they no longer consume. They're constantly on social media, and that is their entertainment. That is what they're exposed to for hours every day. So, I think bringing that forward in more formats, really engaging students as ambassadors, especially if you're sitting in a Marcom seat at a university, that's going to be the most impactful way to get those students to pay attention.
Yep. And I think this ties to a resounding thing I'm hearing is meeting the students where they are, not where you want them to be.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a peek under the hood into the experience, right? Authentic experience.
Love it. And as we start to talk a little bit more about, tools like social media channels, I know we talked about on the flip side of how do you set the marketing teams at universities up for success. And I think you had a nice couple ideas around making sure they have the right tools and the right messaging so they can connect with students. Can you tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Sure. This is a topic I'm really passionate about. So having been in a MarTech seat for many years in higher ed, some of the things that we often lack are the right tools. And some of those tools are very expensive and some of them are not. But really finding the right mix or the right stack, if you will, of the tools for your institution and for what you're trying to do is really critical to success. Those tools have to talk to each other. They can't be the student system over here and, your email system, completely disconnected. It's really important to think about how all of those tools tie together and how they're managing the journeys for your audiences, so that you're really meeting those students in the right place at the right time with the right message. I could beat this drum all day long, every day, because there's so much opportunity for higher ed to keep getting this right. And I see a lot of institutions marching down that path. One of those key things is, where's your information? Where's your data? Don't think about experience and all those touch points with a university being separate from marketing. Marketing really needs to tap into each and every piece of that and be that bridge that creates that experience for your students. So anywhere from a virtual tour to your communication systems to your event management system, all of those things need to talk to each other. One of the things that we did at Ohio State was really thinking about during the pandemic how critical the digital experience really became. We no longer had the opportunity to bring people to campus. And so we actually did use Concept 3D for our virtual tours for medical students and helping them select their residencies. So as you know, Ohio State has a pretty large academic medical center. And in that particular instance, hospitals were locked down. You couldn't bring a whole cohort of students to check it out and investigate the labs and decide if they wanted to come there. So we really, we built several virtual tours based on specialty for that purpose and help people see what the experience was like from afar.
Got it. And I don't know too much about the medical field, but my understanding is that the facilities are really important to where you select your residency, and is that what played a part for that need?
Absolutely, right? I mean, it's very challenging, again, going all the way back to this being an experience brand, even whether you're undergraduate or you're in your medical residency. I think it's really important to know where you're going to make that investment, make that commitment. And so that was a really powerful tool at that time for us that said, hey, this is a way that we can deliver a similar experience that we can't deliver in person today. And so, yes, we were able to do very quickly stand up 360 video and photography to build tours pretty rapidly so that those students could see what the facilities were like.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for the shout out too. That's great. uh, and do you think, as a whole, do you think the higher ed, marketing teams, whether it's admissions, it's central team, recruiting teams, it's communications teams, do you think they're coming together more and aligning and creating that centralized system of tools that you were really advocating for earlier?
I hope so, right? I think that's
Yeah.
that's really critical for the future of higher education. I can't candy coat it. It's higher ed is at an inflection point. And I say that because the audiences are shifting. We're now I don't know if we're post pandemic, but we're at a point where we've had a good couple of years of people seeing the world in a very different way. Mm-hmm. And we already had a generation of students coming up that would say, I'm not sure if I need to go to college. I can just start my own business. I can just do all these things. And now we're in a space where digital has taken over in such a way that brick and mortar experience, that immersive experience, has to be sold even more. Because students, they are on their screens 24/7. That is my friend circle, right? On the screen. Just thinking back to my high schooler, that's how he engages, right? And so seeing the value of shipping off to a university and being somewhere is, you have to really sell that in a way that's never been done before. And so higher ed is really going to need to change how it appeals to this next generation of students. It's going to have to do something above and beyond. And, I'll say this all day long. I'd like to see the next Disney World of higher ed. I'd like to see what that looks like. I'd like to be a part of it if I could, right? But I think there's something to someone really innovative changing the face of higher education in a way that meets the needs of this generation of students.
I love that. That is absolutely visionary, and it's not something that I've heard before. The next Disneyland of higher ed. I love it.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting because what I'm hearing is a lot of the tools that you're suggesting and the communication that we need to have together. That's just how you even understand what's working or what isn't as well, right? And so that's from a business lens, which a lot of the institutions are. Like, that's how you understand new things that you're trying, what's working and what's not. And
Absolutely.
If those tools aren't in place, you're more or less working in a vacuum or in a space where you don't know what the results are from these new strategies you're having to put in place with a new generation. Call it Gen Zoom or Gen Z. I know there's the new terms out there for it, but that's super interesting. So I know we've been talking a lot about the creating demand-sided. I'm really, really stoked to talk about this next topic, which is around the capturing demand side.
Sure.
Again, we get to hit both buckets in one call, so it's really, really cool. But I loved your experience in website optimizations in your previous roles and what you've seen in the past. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit more about what you've seen with website design, optimization, and how that's led to business impact.
Sure. Yeah. So, and I see this a lot even in my current role. A lot of higher ed institutions try to accommodate all the audiences with a single web presence or a series of web presences. And the way that higher ed grew up, the web grew up at higher ed, you end up with a lot of disparate information managed in different ways, creating really broken experiences. And we're at a point now where a lot of institutions are recognizing that and wanting to address it. So what's the right solution, right? So I think that's always the grand question. And you really have to start with understanding your audience. So really thinking back to Ohio State and what we did there, we ran what we call intercept surveys or homepage surveys several times at Ohio State. And what we found is a lot of our feedback came from internal parties. And actually we had, I think it was like a 40% split between internal and external folks providing feedback on the website. But what we found was the internal folks were happy, right? The internal folks were like, I found what I needed and I'm good. No need to change anything. It was the external folks, the people that were really trying to influence and sell this brand to and this experience to, that were struggling. I can't find this. I don't know where this is. Why isn't this there? And so we actually decided to be really intentional about targeting that external audience, those prospective students, those parents, those alumni, and really making sure that our internal teams were kind of moved to the right place and continued to find what they needed to find, but they didn't need to do that on the external website. So that is an important iterative process. You can't just tear down a website, rebuild it and walk away. It is a constant role to iterate, to look at the data, to look at the insights and say, what is our audience telling us today that we need to be thinking about? And listen to the audience that you're really trying to convert and bring along for the ride, for that journey. You want to keep those people engaged with your content. You want them to click that button and apply. You want them to give to your university. And so it's important to continue to nurture that relationship.
Got it. And my one huge takeaway from this, I've also helped with websites and optimization as well. And you actually took the smaller percentage of the audience, which was the prospective students, the alumni, sure, the parents, the friends, which was a smaller percentage of your website visitors, but optimized the website for them because you understood and your team understood that had the bigger impact on the business, right? Because the students are already students, they're committed, and it's not up to the website to keep them retained, right? Or it's up to other processes. And so you took what, from a numbers perspective, I would have just leaned towards the higher percentage, let's make the website optimized for what we get most of, but no, that's not what you understood, because you understood who you're talking to, what business impact that made, and that was
it seems really counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem counterintuitive to think about, why not go for the masses on the website? But again, back to, this is the way that the web grew up in higher ed, is that there has been so much catering to internal audiences that information is skewed. And so you really have to be willing to take that risk and flip the script and say, no, we're going to focus on these external audiences and move our internal audiences where they need to be. And we were able to do that successfully.
Love to hear it. And just taking a huge step back, how important is a website to an institution? How big of a role do you think it plays within the marketing engine or admissions or communications?
Huge. It is the fabric. If a student has even a remote inkling that they want to attend a university, they will hit that website first.
Right.
That's what they're going to do. That's where all the information lives. It's the path of least resistance to learning about the institution. And it is the first impression. So first impressions are everything, right? You want them to stick. You want them to resonate. If I search Google and look for University X and I land on a department's website, that is now, as a prospective student, my first experience with that university. How many of us in Central Marketing Communications think about the Department of History's website or the Department of Dance's website, right? All of those touch points matter. So really thinking about the web as as a massive entity, almost a brick and mortar store with 1,000 front doors, is really important.
I love your example there, metaphor. It is the storefront of every business now and higher education institution as well.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your insight and really detailed knowledge share today. It was so great to have you on. I was wondering where our listeners could reach out to you and maybe connect with you in some of your personal or business links.
Sure. Thanks, Shiro, and great conversation. I really appreciated the time. Your listeners can find me on Twitter at Karmie19. It's Karmie 19, or at my new website, www.martechenabled.com.
martechenabled.com. Is that right?
Yes.
That's awesome. Well,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you as well. And to our audience, thank you. And if you're ever in need of a virtual tour, campus map solution, or events calendar for higher ed, you know where to find us. Thank you.